Okay. I have started the stream. And we're live. Okay. Let me just go grab the link and post it. Okay. Okay, that's where we're cross streaming to, but people don't use that to watch, just join the voice. All right, so I guess, are you two ready? You guys think we should go now? Or do you guys want to wait a little longer?
I'm set.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
The
So
wife
I guess,
and our grandkid is off in the kitchen making noise, so I'm going to be frequently muted.
all right, but George is going to join us for this one. Okay. I don't know if you two know George. Muffin and Snow, do you know George?
No, but I do. The only thing I only recognize the avatar. I recognize the artist who did that.
Oh.
That's all.
No, George wasn't the artist that did that. George used to write a lot of stuff, so I don't remember if he still does.
Do. I just posted something.
Oh, you just posted something? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
George, I think I ran into a few years ago when I was asked to come on to the Barcast for a while. He was the person that was on the previous one, and then they canceled mine. I was a Halloween guest that they canceled. Anyways, we're on stream. I probably shouldn't talk about that. Anyways, so I guess we will... Muffin, how do you feel about starting now? You want to start now or wait a little bit?
I'm more than happy to do it now.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to talk about conventions for a second. That's my forward. I almost forgot about this. Okay, so before we started with this Ask a Writer panel, because it is the first big panel of the day for LooneyCon, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why we ended up, some of the reasons why we ended up doing online conventions in the first place. So when you've got a convention, the original point of conventions is that they're basically trade shows, you know. So way back in the day, you'd have like the sales convention or the computer convention, and it would be the people from that industry showing off whatever they're doing or whatever. And so at a con, you're going to have these specialty vendors and content creators doing things, and these artists that go there to get commission work, and celebrities who go there to sign things. And the reason why we all do these things is because there's sales that we all get, there's exposure that we all get, there's content that we all get to make doing this, and of course there's also that interaction with fans that you just don't get, you know, when you just write a book and send it off, and that's where conventions first came about. But what sort of ended up happening when COVID hit is that all of these vendors immediately said, well, wait, we rely on the ability to go to cons to sell things and get our names out so that people will buy our stuff. Otherwise, we can't move enough of our, you know, fan-made merchandise for various things to, like, make this feasible. And of course, you've got, you know, content creators like us that are sitting there saying, well, hey, we don't get, you know, exposure if we're not going to conventions, and we don't get to interact with our fans if we're not going to conventions. So, you know, you got to remember, we're all basically doing this for exposure. So if you like these writers that are doing these panels or anyone that's doing this stuff, remember that we're also on all sorts of websites. We're everyone on these panels, I think, so far has a film fiction. Some of us have Patreons. A lot of us are moving to Subscribestar after the recent fiasco with film fiction. Some of us are on Twitter. Some of us make YouTube videos that you should go watch. Some of us, I know Fiara is a big streamer. She's not in this one, but she's in a later one. Some of us are published on Smashwords or Amazon, or are about to publish something on Smashwords or Amazon. So, if you're interested in any of the writers that you're seeing at these panels, you should go look them up because, like I said, we're doing conventions for exposure. We're getting paid in exposure, so, hey, go look us up. We've got a lot more content than you're seeing at these conventions. So look us up. Does any of the other people on the panel have any thoughts on this they want to put in before we start? For posterity? No? Nothing? No? No one? Nothing? Okay. Well, then I guess we're going on to begin Ask a Writer with the Mystery Muffin and Chris Schnee and George. Because I don't know where Rejdar is. So, Chris Schnee.
I'm the substitute Rainbow Dash.
Yes. All right, so, Chris, you're first.
All right, hi. This is a general panel for talking about ideas on writing in general and things you may want to ask about for ideas of how you write and how to put together a good story. These things apply to any medium you might want to work with. I think we are all most experienced with written text as a format, but it applies equally well to animation or comics or other media. I want to talk about...
well, introduce yourself first.
Right.
Look at the slideshow I'm streaming.
Yeah, advance the slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm an author. I write books, science fiction and fantasy. Most of my stuff is up on Amazon. Lately, I've also been hosting to a site called Royal Road under the name Snow Quill. I develop software for a living, and I've done some game design stuff that I would like to get back to at some point, and I was once a lawyer. So you can never entirely get away from that. You can look this stuff up on Amazon. So, yeah, advance. So I want to talk about where you get your ideas and where you begin writing a story. Advance the slide, please. Maybe the single most important sentence of writing I've ever gotten was, every element must sing together. The person who said this to me meant it in terms of having every aspect of the story be related in some way so that there is a unified feeling or theme about the entire thing. For instance, this guy had written a novel which began with a particular starting point. He had a strange image saying, how about a science fiction story in which a man needs to attend his wife's funeral while inhabiting her body, his dead wife's body? So this was a bizarre image, and he said, okay, how do I go about setting up the story so that that strange thing can happen? And from there, he looked at the consequences of what he was setting up, and he created an entire society in which this sort of strange thing could happen, and the events that could lead to this strange death and funeral. And he thought about what kind of person could be involved in the situation and be willing to do such a thing, and the kinds of conflicts that would exist in this setting that made this possible. So from that one image, he began to get an entire story. I find that kind of thinking is helpful for story design in general, because I can start with something where there's something that moves me, some idea that I think is cool, and it may be a piece of character, a piece of setting, a plot event, some general mood or feeling or quote I'd like to use, and the entire story can be built around that. Doing that means that you have echoes of the theme showing up everywhere in the story. So in the book I'm thinking of, for instance, the theme was freedom. So every character in the story was in some way tied into this notion of freedom. There was the freedom of people who are physically handicapped and trying to not be that way, or dealing with it in some way. There were people who were dealing with economic forms of freedom. There were radical examples of strange technology that were in play and what it would mean to have biological freedom of being able to change your own DNA and things like that. And there were political and legal aspects of freedom, such that people were doing arguably horrible things in the name of freedom or being told they can't do ordinary things. So every aspect of the setting and the characters and the plot came about through that general theme. I find, and we're going to talk more about this in the world building panel, that you can design a setting partly by thinking about some interesting conflict or aspect you want to see in the setting and seeing what can make that possible and how you can find other echoes of the same concept that you can show up in other ways in the story, echoed in the characters, echoed in the plot, and so on. I want to talk also a little about the character arc, the idea that you don't just have a series of events in the story, you are setting up a character who will have some innate conflict in his life and either succeed or fail at becoming a better person as well as accomplishing something. That can often be tied into your theme by showing how the character bangs into this theme or problem that you've introduced and how that ties in with the character's personal faults and how to overcome them. So in general, I think that designing a story works well if you are thinking about some strange concept and what problem someone will have, and then trying to just follow the logic of what would be a problem for this person. How would this person possibly get into a situation where you can learn and grow and change? And how can I tie that into some larger theme that I want to explore? That's general advice from me, and I think we can move on now.
All right. Right, hello, I am the Mystery Muffin. I'm probably well known for writing specifically any fanfiction You Are Fluttershy and the Armada trilogy. Specifically stories that have revolved around mystery, character development, and a sense of discovering something. So I guess my advice would be on having believable characters who have strengths and weaknesses. I think people tend to try and have their characters... Oh wait, I'm on the wrong one. Hang on. Crap. Right, okay, okay, right.
Oh, you're
Apologies.
on the character panel that you're for tomorrow?
Yeah, I was. My bad. Right,
If it
okay.
helps, I'm streaming the slideshow right now.
Yeah, it does. Right, I'm with you now. Okay, right. So, my advice is to actually have the ending in your mind before you even start the story. So you have a destination. Right. Okay, so usually people have different methods of writing their own stories. They might start the beginning, the middle, and the end, or would start the middle or the end first. And I recommend the end. Have that destination so you know where your story is going, and know where the characters are gonna end, how the characters are gonna end up, what they've learnt, and also show that your characters have gone through some kind of change as well through the story. Because otherwise, by the end of the story, if they haven't experienced change or are still in the same mindset as before, they might not be as interesting for later stories or might leave the reader quite curious. So that's really my main advice. But again, it works for different people.
Is that it? You got nothing more to say?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay. Bridgedoor's not here. George, why don't you give us a second to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm the poster child for anybody can write. I have no writing training. I have no previous writing experience. I just kind of dove into the pony fandom because... you hearing me okay?
Yes, we can hear you just fine.
Yes.
I kind of dove into the pony fandom because I was reading some of these stories, and I looked and I said, wait a minute, I could write better than that. Which is a really bad thing because I'm 2 million words into it right now. And yeah, I started out writing terrible, and thank God for other writers on the site and coming over and going, hey, you did this wrong, and hey, your spelling stinks, and hey, look at all these run-on sentences. That's one of the great things about the pony fandom right now with writers is other people better than you come over and offer assistance, and people who aren't as good as you offer assistance, and we're kind of making a giant ladder. I'll go along with Muffin on the story arc. I'm a seat of the pants writer, but I try not to start a story without having a beginning and an end already worked out. Because sometimes there's a lot of wandering in between the beginning and the end. I've got a lot of stories where I've got beginnings, but I haven't got an end, so I haven't started writing on them yet. I've got advice. I'm not sure it's free advice. It's worth every penny.
Okay.
And I'm just a guy who started writing ponies 10 years ago and looks back now and goes, "Oh God, what have I been writing?" I'm deeply impressed with myself. I'm one of the most humble people I know.
All right. Well, I think if anyone in the Discord chat here wants to start posting questions and topics, I think we're ready. You know who all the writers are, so go ahead. If anyone in this little audience we've got has a question or a topic they want us to discuss, or want these three people to discuss, I should say, go ahead. While we're waiting for that, does anyone on the panel have anything they wanted to bring up? Like any topic you wanted to talk about while we were here?
I'm kind of curious about Snow. You said you were a recovering lawyer?
Yep, I got my law degree and passed the bar exam in Pennsylvania, and worked as a lawyer for a small firm for a little while. Wasn't very good at it, didn't like what I was doing, so I've changed careers since then.
Have you found that your legal training has helped you in writing? Because I know there's an awful lot of writing involved in being a lawyer.
There certainly is, but I'm told that if anything, it may have hurt my writing style. In legal writing, you're expected to be very precise and detailed, using extensive footnotes and citations, and lay out a very specific and detailed argument. And I think that leads to an overly convoluted sentence structure and paragraph structure. I think that may have actually made my writing harder to read, and I've since then consciously tried to err on the side of being more simplistic in how I write.
I sympathize with you. I got exactly the opposite problem. Because I tend to write, then I go back and go, what the heck is this?
Too simplistic, though?
No, other way around. It's like, I was trying to make a point somewhere in here, and I got as much of a point on this sucker as a basketball.
Well, in terms of sentence structure, there are writers who try to be very pretty in how they write. I would use a quote from Blazing Saddles, but it is NSFW. Yeah, you may know what I'm thinking of. Anyway, yeah, you can try to awe people with the sentence structure itself, and some people do that very well. I try not to do that usually. I'd rather just tell the story and have a simple structure of he did this, he did that. On the other hand, do try to vary your sentence structure somewhat so that you got sentences of different length and number of clauses. I get into a bad habit sometimes where I have a whole paragraph and it's A, comma, B, A, comma, B. And it's repetitive and hard to read, so breaking things up and varying it is helpful. That's a good thing to notice when editing.
I do want to poke out in there because, remember, I have a degree in managerial science. I would like to say that professional writing background, I think, really helped my writing abilities because it gave me, I could already spell pretty well. I could, do that, flourish writing really well. It's just really understanding professional writing gave me a structure to it. That's why I do those 5 steps panels, or those 5 step seminars, where just knowing this stuff about like how to structure writing, I find really helps with being able to turn it into a story.
So you'd say the two of you are more plotters than pantsers? Because out of the two
A
major
little bit.
theories of writing were seat of the pants writers and people who like to plot
A
everything
little
out
bit. I
beforehand.
think we're more methodical is more of the thing. Less than it's not so much plot versus pants. It's more just like we're probably more methodical, wouldn't you say, Snow?
Yeah, I'm more on the methodical side. I don't know exactly what's going to happen all the time. With my current project, I only recently said, oh, I think I know how this is going to end now, because I didn't know beforehand. But I still have an idea of general things I want to happen. And now that I've thought of that, I know roughly how I'm going to get there, and it might be 10,000 words away.
Right.
I take lots of notes.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I tend to create characters, let them loose on the page, watch them run around like crazy, and try to follow them. So yeah, sometimes my writing looks like a bunch of ant tracks.
That can be good. I ran into a problem with that once, where my characters were literally sitting around on a boat waiting for something to happen. They couldn't really do anything to advance the story until a delivery happened. So it was a scene of people sitting around saying, what are we going to do? I guess we'll play a game. And I tried to salvage the scene by having them talk about the game and some symbolic significance of it, but it wasn't a very good scene. Didn't belong.
I'll say that.
It does bring up the topic of, when you've written something and it doesn't fit, sometimes you have to get the knife out and chop it.
Yeah, saying is kill your darlings.
Yeah, but sometimes you don't really kill your darlings. You say that's a good scene. It doesn't fit here. I'm going to put it over here in the adoption section, and so I can bring it back later if I really need to.
There was a good video about how Star Wars was saved in the edit, and how very different the rough draft was. And I've seen the deleted scenes that were originally filmed in there. They had the opening scenes, of course, with Darth Vader and Leia, but they were interspersed with Luke mooning around on the planet and thinking about how he wants to join the rebels someday, and he's talking with this other pilot. It was kind of a neat scene, but it just didn't fit.
I'll say personally, stuff like the sitting on the boat scene, I find is a good opportunity for world building.
Yeah, if you can fit it into the pacing.
I built an entire story basically out of sitting on a raft drifting down a river. So it lets you fill up the scene and set what's going on and actually progress a character. You don't actually have to have gunfights. A lot of the young writers, they want a gunfight. Something's going on. There should be shooting. Well, not all the activity involves bang. Oh, and there's a question in the channel.
Oh.
I was going to ask if Muffin had anything to say.
Yes, I was going to say, particularly, I think I would go on your point where specifically, like sometimes, can't exactly explain how the location on itself can tell the story. So there might not be much happening, but you can get a real sense of what might be actually, what might happen later by the scenery itself or the location of where the characters are or where they're going. So if they're in a much cheerful and light, colourful location, then you would expect something of that to happen. Whilst if they're in a very depressing area or a very sinister location, then you would expect to be frightened or surprised.
There are stories that are nothing but setting and are sometimes done by real masters. You may know of Ray Bradbury's story, And There Will Come Soft Rains. There is no plot, there are no characters, and this entirely setting description, and yet it tells a story.
Holden Gardez wrote an entire series called Lost Cities? That is all settings, no characters, and they're wonderful.
I'm thinking also of Ursula Le Guin's story, Those Who Walk Away from Amelis.
Oh, I love that
Famous
one.
story just describing the city and then a moral problem that it has. And that's it.
Yeah, guys, if you've never seen, it's a very short story. I'm pretty sure it's up for free, that you can read it for free. But it's, he's talking about those who walk away from Omelas. And, it's definitely worth a read.
And I referenced Ray Bradbury's And There Will Come Soft Rains.
Right.
Yeah, that's the story I was just publishing. I was getting in on this. A Ray Bradbury tribute.
Neat.
The
Even
other
when you're
one
not
I
going to
keep,
the extreme of what?
the one I keep thinking of, because you were talking about people on a raft, that entire story about people on a raft. There's a bad story that's like that, which is Old Man in the Sea by Hemingway. I think it's one of his worst books. But there's also a good one, which is Life of Pi. Life of Pi is an amazing story that is almost entirely set on a life raft.
If you have a story that is in a physically confined space, that's a way to increase the tension in the story because the characters can't escape for the most part. There are plenty of good stories that do that with, say, a boat or a submarine. There's Das Boot. There's Hunt for Red October. There's
Castaway.
that KC something with the Widowmaker. Yeah, there's the Castaway on an island. And the characters can't escape from their situations. That forces them to not run away.
Sometimes it's interesting to just watch how they react for, an hour or so. Over the years of being on this island, his reaction becomes interesting. Same with Life of Pi. Over the months that he's trapped on this life raft, his reaction becomes what's interesting about the story.
And in Castaway, one of the most memorable things in the movie is the interaction with a volleyball.
Right, because the volleyball becomes a character in itself almost.
Yeah.
But it's a character that you only get through his imagination of, I need another person here, I just need another person, I just need to talk to someone, anyone. So he imagines that Wilson is a real person. Anyways, do you guys want to move on to this topic that's been posted here?
What's that?
Laser Extreme Dude asks, have you ever watched a Disney animation like The Owl House, Big City Greens, and or Amphibia?
I have not watched a lot of recent animation. I enjoyed Avatar: The Last Airbender and its sequel. So that recently. And of course I've seen Friendship is Magic.
Owl House because my children wrangled me into it. It's really worthwhile. They do a really good job of developing out the world one piece at a time so you're not overwhelmed. That is one thing that can really kill a writer, is when you try to throw everything all in all at once. Here's a main character, here's the world they're in, here's all their people around them. It's like, no.
Yes, that can be quite overwhelming for the reader as well.
I will say, Disney has been putting out a lot of really interesting cartoons lately. Starting with, I think the first one was, what's it called? Gravity Falls, which I have seen. I haven't seen either of these three. I've seen them, but I haven't sat down to watch them. But I did recently watch through all of Star Wars: The Forces of Evil, and I was just Wow, that floored me. Wow, they covered genocide in a children's cartoon. You do not see that normally. And they did a good job of it, too. I was really impressed. But, Muffin, how about you? You seen any of these? You like cartoons? I know you like cartoons.
Yeah, I like cartoons. I definitely got into Gravity Falls and started watching that with my friends, and I really liked how how I how almost in a way you get sort of transported into this world of Gravity Falls, and you sort of recognize your surroundings really whilst watching the show, and you get dwelled into this world by how the characters sort of learn through the different episodes. And I haven't seen much, but that is one I recommend on specifically world building as well, because you get the basic layers of this world of Gravity Falls, and and then it becomes easier to understand once the characters start going on their adventures and all of that. But
Any other thoughts on this? I know I think the only one we've seen is that we're familiar with is Owl House. I mean, I know what Big City Greens and Amphibia are, but has anyone on the panel seen anything but Owl House?
I saw Big City Greens, but I was like, it's kind of too dumb for me.
Well, I will tell you, I think Big City Greens, and I may be wrong about this, it is one of those ones that, from what I understand, the dumbness of it is actually like deceptive, kind of like Adventure Time. But yeah, it's not a big, amazing fantasy like the other ones. Like Amphibia and the Owl House are, high fantasy, as opposed to Big City Greens is just kind of a cartoon. I think it's in a completely different category of all this stuff. I would compare it to like Loud House or Craig of the Creek, both of which I haven't really watched other than watching other people's kids. So, but if you want us to talk about, fantasy cartoons, hey guys, talk about fantasy cartoons.
Well, they're harder to write than regular stories because you know how you have the normal story arc with your normal story. In a cartoon, you have to build it to specific number of seconds before this commercial break happens, and then a number of seconds for this commercial break happens. I much prefer to be writing normal fiction. I would never be able to write a cartoon.
And in a cartoon, you are expected to have an episodic plot that has something exciting happen every so often.
Right. That is an issue with like a lot of this stuff, is that the networks kind of force them into, some of them want to do like they want to do a serial plot, whereas the networks say no, it has to be episodic. And even in like, My Little Pony, we saw that. In She-Ra, we saw that, where it's like, no, She-Ra is the one that's not like that. A lot of the streaming services are not like that. There's a lot of cartoons that are on like the television networks that they have to be episodic because you need to be able to miss a week or two and not be lost. Whereas with the streaming services, what they found was episodic is better because there is no missing a week. They drop it all at once, and you sit down and watch as many episodes as you want. And if they're episodic, then you're sitting there like, oh, I got to see what happens next. So like when we were watching She-Ra, because I was visiting my mom a while back, and we watched through all of She-Ra, all 4 seasons, and we were just like, wow, I wonder how Adora's going to get out of this one. Like they'll put her in a situation that'll last for several episodes, and they can do that. Same with Disenchantment. How is Tia Beanie going to get out of this one? How is Elfo's dead? Oh no, Spoiler alert, Elfo dies. Anyways,
No.
no.
I found that Avatar: The Last Airbender was a good example of doing world building and managing to have both a complex setting and character arcs. So that was something where there were episodic events of some very specific thing happens in one episode, and yet there is a larger arc that covers an entire season and then the entire 3 seasons.
Right. The way they pull that off, and it's something I'm trying to do in my own novellas, is rather than having, the plot get developed episode by episode by episode, they'll basically have, okay, this set of episodes, the first 6 episodes, okay, we're going to give these 3 plot points, right? And then the next set of episodes will give these 3 plot points, and then we'll slowly build the plot points over time in such a way that if you miss like 2 or 3 episodes in a block, you aren't, you can tell where they kind of are in the story, but they're never at a point where if you miss this, you won't understand what's going on. Except, no, not even, because the episode where they finally bring Zuko on to the team is like, it's several episodes of him trying to join them. But
It breaks the trope of he's a bad guy, he's made the conversion, now he's a good guy. It's like, no,
Yeah,
he's a bad guy. Supposedly he's made the conversion. Oh, look at the difficulty he's got working himself into the new position.
I was thinking also about the character arc of Sokka. He starts out as being the butt of all the practical jokes, the slapstick humor. He's the guy who always says, don't do this, and then the group ignores him and does it anyway and gets in trouble. Then by the second season or so, they start listening to him, and they do a better job because of it, and he feels like he's underpowered because he has fewer magic powers, but the others say to him, you're the one that we go to for advice these days. And between that and an arc where he gets a cool sword, he ends up being a more developed character where he's more mature and respected and has a leader role. And it took 3 seasons to get through all of that.
yeah. They're all great characters. That is, Avatar: The Last Airbender is probably one of the, even though it's technically trying to be anime, it's probably one of the greatest works of Western animation of all time, I'd say. Probably top 10.
And I still have a spot in my heart for Batman the Animated Series.
Oh yeah, that was pretty groundbreaking itself. Muffin, what's your favorite cartoon along these lines?
Well, I liked how in X-Men Evolution, it's particularly the first season, on how you sort of know that the main villain behind everything is Magneto, but you are still wondering, okay, why is he gathering all of these villains, and why are they specifically working for him, and why are they doing this at this particular time, and why are they trying to stop the X-Men in what they're trying to achieve, or both in their learning and in world saving. And you sort of you sort of know who it is, but you still keep guessing what particularly the villain or the bombshell is going to bring near to the end of the story. So I think it's that keeping the viewers or the readers guessing what is going to happen next, even though they might have some form of idea of what exactly is going to happen or how this is going to pan out.
You can kind of tell who they're aiming their target audience at, too. The example is My Little Pony versus something like X-Men or the DC ones. Because the older the audience gets, the more that they permit shipping. When they with My Little Pony, they didn't even permit Twilight Sparkle and Equestria Girls to get a kiss at the end of her date with was it the Timber, and yet you have all this pairing up going on during all the other cartoons because they're targeted at an older audience. So what you can do in a cartoon is a lot of the time determined by what toys they're selling, I suppose.
Yeah.
I will flip that around. One of the things that I think occurred, some of the writers did criticize about My Little Pony was that not being able to put characters in relationships meant, you know, they really felt like one of the things they could have done that would have really been helpful to, the audience, the younger audience getting, role models is that there are not many good examples to these days of a good relationship, of like a healthy relationship. So not having any of the main characters in a healthy relationship ended up being, kind of an issue, kind of problematic for the series. Just, you know, why not have, just give one of them a boyfriend or something, or like one of them a girlfriend or something,
Because they're
Why
trying to
not?
emphasize that particular target audience that thinks boys are gross and have cooties.
Well, I mean, they must not be, because Equestria Girls has Twilight fawning over a boy.
Because that's targeted at a slightly older audience than My Little Pony. Because My Little Pony is.
I also felt they had. Almost no positive male role models in the entire series. Of course, it was marketed to girls originally, but your only real male characters are Spike, who is in a feminine position, wearing a apron half the time and serving as an assistant, treated like a baby. And you have Shining Armor, who is the guy showing the Worf effect trope, where he's always the one getting knocked out and is blubbering and crying in several scenes. So there's
Well,
not really anybody you can look to as a strong male character who is not frequently humiliated or emasculated in some way.
I mean, I'll
If you
argue
did it,
that. I'll counter argue that, Shining Armor crying isn't necessarily an example of him not being a good male role model. I do think we have a problem in our society of young males being told not to express emotions and not to express themselves like that. But what I will say is I kind of felt like there could have been. I appreciated him and his wife because they were an example of a couple that's not having some crazy dynamic that kind of like, well, that's not a healthy dynamic. That was a healthy relationship. And Spike being a little kid, yeah, that made him not very good as a male role model. Big Mac never talking and never being on screen makes him not an effective male role model. Though I'd say it's up for debate whether or not the fact that they do these, things that we kind of traditionally think of as effeminate, whether or not those are an issue. I think Muffin's trying to say something.
Well, I think, yes, I would agree really the sort of males are put on the sideline, although again the show is targeted towards a specific gender, and so but I think, yes, even characters like Discord, you sort of see that he constantly gets into a sticky situation, which involves the main six trying to fix it, or other people role models. But it's I think it's tricky because yeah, it's a difficult one to, I think, talk about, because I'm not sure how to describe it.
Each one of the characters is put there for a particular pigeonhole.
Yeah,
Spike, for example, is there so that Twilight does not have to talk to herself, because talking to yourself is a bad thing. She's the focus of the entire thing, so when she's with the other of the main six, she's talking to them, so she doesn't have to be talking to herself.
And then he gets dumped somewhere.
Yeah. For Dips and Snails, for example, are in there to be boy pals. They're boys who stick together, they're good friends, and they're not very bright, but they're friends. Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon are there to be the stereotypical friends, snooty friends, the types that we will never be.
They're mean
That's an
girls.
example of long-term character arcs as well. For what's meant as originally as a kids show, it's something that does a lot of character building by starting out with characters who have 1 or 2 character traits each, and then they're allowed to have additional episodes over time where they get more and more complex. Partly through just showing how they run into problems and try to overcome them, and partly by picking a pair of characters for some episode and just seeing how those two play off each other when the focus is on those two. So I think that went well.
That's one point where the cartoon and writing tend to come together, is because you have a character who's only exhibiting 1 or 2 points, and you want to, fluff that out with either a story or another cartoon episode. That's what I wrote. Was it Diamond Tiara buys a little sister, because it fits into her. I'm rich. I'm privileged. I can do whatever I want. I want a little sister. So, how do I get a little sister? I'm going to go buy one. You could never write that with any of the other characters, because none of the other characters would have that particular mindset.
Muffin.
I think the thin characters.
You go. Okay, I was gonna say, Muffin, do you have any thoughts?
No, no, I don't have anything.
I'm just trying
I
to
was
make
starting to
sure
say
everyone
there were thin characters in the first episode of that show because they were trying to introduce 6 major characters at the same time, along with the heroine's sidekick Spike and a couple of other supporting characters like Celestia and Luna. So each character only really had a small amount of screen time to show much of a personality. If I had been writing that thing, I might have tried to have a smaller number of characters in the opening episodes, just so that I could have more focus on each one. But due to the way they were setting up the story and the overall arc, they had to have 6 at once, and so we got 1 character trait per person, basically.
Yeah, it was a rushed pilot, as pilots often are. Let's pick another show and talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, you have to look at the My Little Pony pilot episode as oh God, they managed to do all of this in just one 30 to 1 hour minute. 30-minute to 1 hour thing. Because they established that the world is run by an alchemist raising and lowering the sun and moon, introduced the whole concept behind the entire world. Bang, there's the main character. It's really impressive. I'm saying that as somebody who tried to rewrite episode 1 twice, and it ran out multi chapters, and I'm like going, how did they do this visually?
Well, they tried to combine things so that, for instance, when introducing Rainbow Dash, they show that there is such a thing as weather magic in the setting, which you would not have otherwise known. And there are characters who can do it regularly, and there is a famous sports stunt team, and they managed to work that into one little scene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do we have another show to discuss?
Yeah, think of another show to discuss, guys. Has anyone seen Star vs. the Forces of Evil?
No, unfortunately. No.
What was the one I was watching recently? Well, since we're talking about the children's fantasy, let's talk about adult fantasy. Has anyone seen Disenchantment by Matt Groening?
Yes, I did see that, yes.
Okay. And for those who don't know, Disenchantment is basically, it's by the creator of The Simpsons and Futurama. And it's kind of like Futurama, but it's a serialized series It's a Netflix series, and it's set in like a magical high fantasy medieval kingdom,
Yeah.
except without the magic. Hence disenchantment. But talk about that series.
Yeah, so with the main character, her name was
Princess Tia Beanie,
Tia
aka
Bean.
Bean.
Yeah, Bean. And how like she does not want. She's sort of. But you get this character that she just wants. She's this lone girl and really has no interest in marrying a prince and not being able to do much. And we then learn about these other characters and how Alpho is sort of tired of like being in this perfect world, and he wants to have this sense of danger and excitement and adventure. And then you have our demon, Sal. What was her name? His name, Sal, something like that.
Lucy, actually. His name is Lucy.
Lucy.
As in Lucifer.
Oh yeah. So, and how all three of these characters sort of are pretty much tired of the worlds that they've been forced into, and you sort of learn about that they just want to go and explore and visit and try and seek something different.
One could say they've become disenchanted.
Yeah, pretty much, and how they just want to get out of that box, and they want it, and they just want to escape and just see more of the world, and that and you can see them change throughout the show, and how they how they vision the world around them after that.
So let's tie that into writing advice real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I can field that one for just a little bit. In terms of how well do you write now as opposed to when you used to? For example,
What are you
Disenchanted never would have flown if that would have been the first cartoon that Matt Groening did. But he's done The Simpsons forever, and that gives him a base to work off of. Who was the author who said, when you make your first sale, take everything you've written up to that point and burn it? I'm not sure if that was a specific author or what, but it has some points to it, because I've looked back at stuff I've written 10 years ago and gone, oh God, did I delete this one?
I've heard the saying that you have to go through 1 million bad words before you start writing well.
Not Dr. Seuss, the Coyote Roadrunner guy, Chuck Jones, had a quote to something like, each of you has 1,000 bad drawings in you. The sooner we get those out of you and done with, the better. Is one of his teachers in school, in art school, told him that. And I was going, that fits. You have to write in order to get better at it.
Yes.
The formal training that I most appreciate is that I had a couple of high school teachers make us write a whole lot of essays. So I got very experienced at that.
I did too, and I had to unlearn a lot of that when I started writing.
Well, by the time I got to college, I worked with the wife of a famous author. That was Gay Haldeman, wife of Joe Haldeman. And we would go through some of my work, and she would sort of scowl disapprovingly at some of what I've written, making it obvious that it was bad, but she wasn't quite willing to say so. I could track when she did that, and she would offer gentle advice and encouragement on things I was doing wrong or well. We also read the stories aloud together, so that was a way to help identify what sounded strange.
I am so jealous right now.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not covet thy fellow author's assistance when they were younger.
Mentors, yeah.
But yeah, that does bring up the how do you get better? Because you can write 1,000,000 words and still be lousy if you've never had anybody tell you that you're lousy and how to improve.
Yeah. Yeah, you need critique, and you have a thick enough skin that you can listen to criticism and fume about it and get angry, and then come back and actually use that advice because it was probably good. That also means that when you're applying, yeah,
Go ahead.
When you are trying to give criticism, try to gauge the experience level of the people you're dealing with. Is this somebody who is mature and willing to listen to you say this is bad and you want to fix it, or is it somebody who is very new so that you should focus on saying positive things and then throw in some small bit of criticism like, I think you're making this recurring grammatical error. So try to gauge the level of maturity and experience the person has.
And those don't necessarily go with age.
Yeah. By maturity, I mean, like, how experienced are you at being told something is wrong, and will hearing that something is bad help you, or will it just discourage you from trying more?
I have a story on that one that's very short. When I first wrote The Traveling Tutor, I sent it out to a group guy for critique, and it took like 6 months or something for him to get back. It was forever. And the critique he wrote was absolutely hellish. It was kind of like, it kind of started out, I loathed every single word of this disgusting thing. Oh, how I hated it beyond belief. And it went on for pages.
Was it good advice?
About 10% of it was good advice. But first I had to get my way through the other 90% because I was fuming by the end of it. I wrote this, I wrote a blog posting on it going, oh God, how terrible, awful, god awful this was. And then about a month later, I wrote another blog posting going, there were some bits in here that I actually found useful.
Yeah, I consider myself experienced and mature by my definition, but I would still rather have a critique that is more positive than that.
Yeah, none of us are mature enough to take criticism. I'm sorry. There is no such thing as a mature writer gracefully accepting your critique. I actually had an editor quit on me because I'm obnoxious and headstrong. If I am critiquing some of your stuff and you find Mono comments on it says this sucks, it doesn't necessarily mean this sucks. It just means I don't like this.
Well, try to be more specific, and it helps to have a header to the critique saying, I like this overall. I want to encourage it. This is meant to help you improve. Some header disclaimer like that could be helpful.
And generally, if I'm helping edit somebody, that's because I like what they're doing, and that's kind of implied. And I really need to say that a little bit more when I'm helping edit. But some people don't take criticism of criticism well. I actually had some people that bailed out on me because they would leave a comment saying, this should be like this. And I would put in, no, I wrote it like this for a reason. And next thing I know, I didn't have an editor. But I stuck with it because
criticism is...
Go ahead.
You shouldn't end up automatically accepting every suggestion you get.
Yeah, there's some good reasons for that too.
Yeah. But if you're trying to improve, just getting notes on recurring errors that you make can be helpful in terms of the grammar and spelling, or sentence structure. And if you have a little more experience, it's helpful to learn more about character arcs and plot arcs, so you know the overall structure of a well-written story. And you should read stuff by other authors, and some of the famous things, maybe things from genres or cultures outside your own that can be helpful.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Or try and read different things. So don't just read one particular genre or style of writing or just a few authors. Try and reach out and try and branch out what you're reading, and to try and explore areas that you may not necessarily would have known. And that might be, that might be a good idea for a potential story that you want to write.
Yeah, sometimes in terms of negating things. Somebody gave me a copy of Harlan Ellison's stories, because I've written about AI stuff, and he wrote the story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. I hate Ellison's style. I hate what he wrote. I hate the content. I find it morally offensive. I don't like the style and the gimmicks of it. But hey, it was interesting to read the material and learn how he does things and what I do and don't like about it, so that I can try to write my own stories better. Also,
go ahead.
Also, it's a way to get at the older themes and tropes of fiction. If you are looking at older, more defining works, if you wanted to write a story about a post-apocalypse world, for instance, a newbie writer might say, "I'm going to base it on the Fallout video games," because that's what you know. If you go back and read Harlan Ellison's story, A Boy and His Dog, that is pretty much the story that inspired Fallout more than anything else. And like I said, I hated it, but it's definitely memorable. And if you go back to that, it can tell you more about world building than you would get from the more recent media.
To throw
That's also a
something,
reason to look at nonfiction.
to throw something down about Harlan Ellison, after he wrote I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, and people were like, hey, can you really say that? And he's like, the job of the author is to piss people off. That is my job. If you're not pissed off, I'm not doing my job. It's which is a pretty
That's
good
true,
point to
yeah.
make. Sometimes the job of a writer, isn't always to just give you something safe and easy. Sometimes a writer is the best person to, smack you with something and say, hey, this is this is what you've got to confront today. Force a confrontation between you and whatever's going on.
Yeah, and all of us have styles that we tend to write on. I tend to write the having a happy fuzzy when you're done reading the story and going through the rest of your day happy type stories, because I don't do horror very well at all.
Then you're not doing your job. But I keep thinking about it because it's on my mind because I've been playing Destiny lately. Destiny has done a great job recently. I don't know if you guys have heard about the current storyline is getting a lot of headlines. The current storyline of Destiny involves a tribe of the bug people that you've been fighting for the past, entire game. One tribe of them now wants an alliance, and they're refugees in the city and all that. And there's this whole thing going on, and they've been so helpful that all the players are wholeheartedly accepting, yes, the bug people are part of our city now, but they've got one of the political leader NPCs in the city saying, oh no, I'm gonna start driving this racial conflict now, and for political gain, and I'm gonna get everyone to fight over this. And the player base is absolutely pissed off. It's super investing. Everyone is on the forum saying I am so pissed off, but I am so invested in this plot right now because I really want to see the bug people safe right now. But there was demand specifically for when do we get to kill Lakshmi. If you guys have seen the when do we get to kill Lakshmi meme, that's what that's a reference to. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting because it's there's something to be said about pissing your readers off or pissing your audience off, making them confront things.
Yeah,
Muffin,
because that's... Oh, sorry.
I was saying, Muffin, do you have any thoughts?
Yes, because that then gets people talking about that particular story, and sometimes, yes, stories might might not be meant to make people be happy, or in the sense enjoy it in a particular way. Sometimes it's made to disgust the reader, and then that will help, and then that will potentially help share your story, because it will be word to mouth, and they'll say, oh, this story has got this in it, or I didn't like this because of what happens in this particular scene. But in a way that actually helps get your story recognition, because then that is spreading what, because then people are going to be like, oh, okay, well, it can't be that bad, I'll have a look into it, you know. Not that it's bad, but of specifically the content that they may not necessarily agree with. But yeah, that is really a writer's job, is to discuss things that will potentially make you uncomfortable. Even if it is a happy, joyous story, there's probably going to be some part where you're going to sort of cringe a little bit, in a sense.
That's kind of bleed into character motivations too. You're talking about the bug creatures that everybody's been fighting forever, and now they want to make friends. My first thought was, until they can get into an advantageous position and kill everybody, because people tend to not to change their personalities overnight.
Well, that's what she keeps saying, with the sort of villain of this scenario keeps saying. But the thing is, it's really going on is it's a specific tribe that's actually been, like, the players knew this character because he's been showing up in missions for the past couple years, because they're the one tribe of bug people that is allied with the good guys. So this is actually like an ideological thing rather than a racial thing, that there's all these other tribes that you're fighting are part of this ideology are part of this evil ideology, and this one tribe happens to be not only following a good ideology, but one that, inspires them to take up arms against, all the other bad guys. So they basically were pushed, into this situation where either the good guys needed to let them into the city, or they'd get wiped out by their enemies. And so it's not just, oh, they're doing this angle. They might be. It's been implied that could be the thing, but it's not likely. There's nuance to the situation.
It does bring up a point in stories, though, about motivations and actions. Actions speak louder than words. And what's the stereotypical artist who's sitting there on the camera going, "What's my motivation for this scene?" Well, all of our characters have motivations, and they take actions based on those motivations. And sometimes the actions they take look contrary to their motivations. So the first thought I was having on the bugs is, what is the motivation for the tribe that's working with the humans against their own kind? Could that motivation be changed? Is there perhaps a sub-motivation that they're hiding? And that works for characters and stories too. We'll pick on Harry Potter. Harry Potter is always a fun one to pick on. No, seriously, it's the one that most people have read.
It really
is. And the main character has no ulterior motives. He's like, this is an incredible world. I want to go explore it. Isn't this great? But that's his motivation. And you go looking deeper into it, and Snape hates him. Why does Snape hate him? Snape hates him because, and it works out eventually into Snape hates him because he went to school at the same time as his father, and his father picked on him. Oh, okay, well, that's why he hates him. And then a little bit later it goes, oh, he hates him because they were both, had the same girl, and his father stole the girl away from him. And then, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And then it goes a little farther into, and Voldemort killed the girl that he actually loved, and that's why he's fighting for the group against Voldemort. And you go, that's a motivation inside a motivation inside a motivation inside a motivation. And it unwinds as you go deeper into the books. And that's a really good example of how somebody's actions are related to what their motivations are that you don't know yet. And everybody else unmuted. I think they're going to comment on me. I'll shut up now. I'll let them comment.
Well, if no one else is going to say anything, I will say, Snape is he's a massively complicated character. I don't think he's necessarily a healthy character in terms of like having this obsession with this person and, getting them killed and just all the weird crap that he ends up with. Like, it's not the kind of love that you really want from someone. And I think that was an issue of people saying, oh yes, I want a lover like Snape. You want a lover who will kill you and then be mean to your son? What? But he is a very interesting, like I was really impressed with the level of complexity of that character, and it's mainly because of the contrast with the rest of those stories where it's very black and white and very unnuanced portrayal of real world issues that Harry Potter suffered from. But Muffin, I feel like, has something to say.
Well, I think it's with the Harry Potter series and how Snape plays an important role to the series, on how you sort of get this sense that he's really screwed off with Harry for literally everything he does. But you sort of, as the books go on, you dive deeper into his character and how actually his role plays an extremely important one in the overall series of the books, and how and how from really he was those, like Harry and Snape sort of have that sort of connection really throughout the whole series. Not even because in book 4 and how Harry and Ron sort of fell out over the Goblet of Fire, but really it's a sort of similar relationship between Harry and Snape throughout the whole series, and how it leads to that point and how it all connects on how Harry's parents died and how that affected Snape to the very last moment where Snape dies.
Yeah, and in terms of, not only the books, they cast the movies perfectly. I don't think anybody could have done Snape better than Alan Rickman.
Oh, yeah. Rickman was a great actor, yeah. Any thoughts from Snow?
No, I don't think I have any comment on that.
Right. So I guess it feels like we're running low on topics, so I guess I should ask, does anyone in the audience have anything that they would like to, well, if you got any more questions, go ahead and ask them in the text chat, because we've got the text chat here on the Discord. That's what it's for. It's a Discord text chat. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the other thing is if anyone in the audience wanted to, share anything with us and have anyone... I see there's 2 people watching on YouTube. And I'm just going to remind you guys, if you go look at the description of the video, you can come talk to us right now. We are we are live at LooneyCon, in the Discord server, and that's where we're talking from. So you can totally, chat with us right now. But what I wanted to ask is if anyone in the audience, if you guys don't have any more questions or topics, does anyone have any brief piece of work they would like to share while we're still on stream? and maybe we can comment on it as writers. Or I should say the other three can comment on it because I should be quieter because it's their panel. But like they're technically supposed to be the stars, not me. But
Nah, we're all stars.
I
You
think,
as well, Raccoon.
yeah, I think it's cool now that I can open the floor. You know, I don't feel like we have anything big to discuss anymore. So I think I'm going to open the floor to. If anyone wants to talk on the stream, just go ahead and unmute yourself, and we'll just keep talking.
A long, quiet silence there. One of the things I've hit is what we're hitting right here is writer's block. Well, I haven't actually hit it. That's my problem. I've got like 12 stories in the process, but I keep getting asked by people, how do you deal with writer's block? And it's one of those blind spots for me because I'm constantly doing something. Any of you guys hit that spot?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. It's just to me, the main problem I have is just trying to type the words themselves into the story. I have the story in my mind and I know what the characters are going to say, but it's actually getting those words down and sort of putting them, sort of having them there visually. That's what I find hardest about writing. But once it's there and once it's done, it's really satisfying. But that is really my main problem with writer's block, is actually putting it down.
Yeah, learning how to force yourself how to write things is really difficult. I would say that I found what really helped me with that was just having the outline there. The outline is really your friend because you can write it as dumb and as without flourish, as plainly as day as possible in the outline, and then go back and write it as actual prose later, and it writes itself once the prose writes itself once you've got the outline done.
There's one technique called the snowflake technique where you set up a story by writing a series of 4 sentences describing 3 problems and then an ending, and then attempt to expand on that by turning each of those sentences into 4, and each of those sentences into 4, and so on. So you have a fairly detailed outline as you do that.
I refer to that as snowballing because it's like you're rolling up a snowball and you're taking your outline and you start with just a few ideas and then you just build them up over time. And the other thing that's great about writing an outline is I always tell people the first thing you need to do is once you've got your ideas, that you've got an idea, you need to sit down and write an outline first because this is a good spot that you can do that. And also, if you decide to change something once you're writing the ending parts, you're like, oh, I need to foreshadow this. Oh, I need to change this early on. It's really easy to do that from the outline and really hard to do that if you've already started writing prose.
I can imagine someone setting up the overall plot for Avatar: The Last Airbender, where the overall outline is going to be, okay, this Aang guy needs to learn water magic, he needs to learn earth magic, and then fire magic, and finally beat the bad guy. And that's your level 1 outline. Level 2 outline is, okay, how is he going to learn water magic? Is there going to be a particular place he goes for that? Are there going to be particular incidents which happen along the way? And then you could develop it further from there.
I'm sitting here laughing. You guys are all outliners. I'm a horrible pantser. If you look at the icon there, that's done by Little Tigress. And when I saw he was posting pictures, and it's a plush. It's got little dotted lines for all the parts. She posted that up. I looked at it, and I said, I have a story. It was just bang. And I wrote her back and said, I need to use this in my story. And I started writing at that point. I had the first chapter done by the time that she sent me back the note saying, yeah, that's okay. I had the last chapter done like a day and a half later. And it was just start to finish. Boom, boom, right bottom to the top. It just came to me like God came over with a hammer and said, you need to write this.
Yeah, I've had that happen. The other day, somebody posted a little meme saying something about a Dungeons and Dragons class of paleontologist necromancers who reanimate dinosaurs from bones. And I started joking with people online about that, saying, what if there were these paleontologist necromancers and they got into some big fight with their giant reanimated monsters, and then they started arguing about the academic points of the bones, saying, no, you had the bone structure all wrong. This is incorrect. And that became a story like an hour later.
Yeah, those types of things do happen, though. And we're frustrating the hell out of people who have like 24 blank pages in front of them and a pencil. It's like, how do you guys get those things just to drop on you? And the answer is, well, you might get 500 of them dropping on you, and before the 501st one actually comes out as a story.
Well,
Okay.
one thing to do is to keep a notes file.
I pulled up
some
the
original idea.
I pulled up the image in his icon on the stream
Aw.
for those who haven't, who weren't sure what he's talking about when he's talking about the stitched up pony. And the title of the story he's talking about is Twilight Sparkle Makes a Cult Friend. Literally.
Scroll down.
What?
Scroll down a bit.
Scroll down? Wow, that's a lot.
Because we can't see the picture you're pointing to.
Wait, what? You should be able to.
Okay.
I can see that now. But yeah, I was going, what would Twilight Sparkle do because she's so inept at dating? Well, the answer is she would create a golem in order to practice. And, this being Twilight Sparkle, she would create one that is entirely too real for all of her friends who are kind of creeped out about it. Because this is one of those take it to 11 things. Sometimes, you have a good idea, but taken to 11, it's a great idea. Sometimes you can even take them to 12. I've hit a lot of them like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was about to say, like, yes, you can have a really good idea, but it's actually thinking about, okay, how am I actually going to make this work? How am I going to make it flow well, make it sense, and like what are people going to enjoy about it? And these are the sort of questions you should ask yourself before, writing a particular story. Because again, I got the idea from You Are Fluttershy by the fan art itself, but I sat down and think, okay, how does this happen, and why does this happen, and also, is she going to be in the human world or is she going to be in the Equestria? And it's those sort of things. Like, again, you have an amazing idea, but it's just putting it into the words that can that readers can the language that readers can understand in it. And I'm talking about writing language, and how that connects to them, and how why they want to specifically read that story.
Anyone else have anything to talk about? We got this room for another hour, so.
God, an hour?
Yeah, these are.
How are we going to get everything crammed into an hour?
I know, right? No, these all these panels we reserved 3 hours for them, just so that we could potentially go over, because I've seen them go for almost 3 hours in the past. Last night we were in the room for all 3 hours.
Yeah, I didn't really plan on being there either. I just kind of wandered in and
Yeah. Oh, you were there for that. That's right. For those who don't know, last night, you can watch it on YouTube. Last night we had a comedy panel that was just, we were very seriously talking about comedy, but then we stopped being serious at some point.
You can't be serious and talk about comedy.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah,
we got some serious points in.
Well, yeah, comedy's kind of what you make of it. And it's kind of like you get into horror or drama or whatever. They all have kind of guidelines and flavors and tints and hints and this person's comedy may not be that person's comedy. Same thing for regular stories. I don't think we have regular stories. Same thing for like slice of life stories, where you can have some people like having long, slow, drawn out through the countryside type stories, and some people want a gun battle in every other chapter.
Yeah.
So
I think it can be difficult. Oh, so
keep talking. Keep talking.
I think it can be difficult on balancing action to world building, and I think that can be. It's trying to find that balance because because sometimes you don't want to try and fit so much into all of a sudden and just have something constantly happening. But then again, people might want to have that, and if they read like a long period of where it's character development and world building, they might find that boring. So it's just trying to find that balance between both the like world building, but also action, and that can be difficult.
So remember how I just said that we've got another hour? I did the math wrong. We actually only have 15 minutes more. But
Wow, time flies.
yeah, we've been here for almost 3 hours. I mean, we started a little late, but I just want to point out that Snow posted in the voice chat that bit from if anyone's seen the video, I've seen this video before. They read the story where it says, "Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire?" Dumbledore asked calmly. And then it goes to the movie version where it's like, "Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire?" And that's a good example of how things sometimes come across really well in text, but then they go to the movie version and they decide, well, we think it would be better coming across differently. Because what Rowling meant was, and this might have been better and it might not have, was Dumbledore just walks up to him, staring intensely, and says, "Harry, did you put your name in the goblet of fire?" Just barely containing himself because he knows better than to just freak out right now because they need to know what's going on. Because, as you find out, it's an assassination.
It's not necessarily a better or worse version of the scene. It works a little differently in different media.
I'll say that I think it makes Dumbledore a much smarter player in the book when he's asking it calmly, because when you're dealing with a situation, screaming about it does not help in the way that, just calmly asking, okay, we need to get to the bottom of this. Who put his name in the goblet of fire? Harry, were you the one who put your name in the goblet of fire? No. Okay, shenanigans are happening. Someone's going to pull something. This is an assassination attempt or something. That's what it's trying to do in the book, is that he's being calm about it. He's trying to calmly assess the situation. Whereas in the movie, he's just freaking out.
In the movie, you have to tell the audience. It's the show versus tell thing. It's not just show versus tell; it's show and tell. Because I found that if I just show, a lot of people will miss the hell out of things. I did
in the book version.
Go ahead.
In the book version of the story "The Golden Compass" by Philip Pullman, there is a scene that I found exceptionally creepy, which involves the heroine finding this boy who is pathetically clutching a dead fish. And it sounds silly to describe it that way, but it's horrible in context.
Oh, I know
the movie, I found it didn't have much of an impact in that scene, but there was this other scene they did that I found was a lot more creepy, where they are lowering a divider in a box to distance somebody from a animal. Effectively, they're performing this psychic lobotomy thing that is murdering somebody's soul, basically. And I think the two scenes work very differently in the two media.
Yes, I think the problem with the movie was that it just it missed out a lot of key details, and it sort of crammed it into, I don't know, what was it, a 2-hour film or something like that, when really I think for Pullman I think wanted his books really to be, you know, sort of expanded and just talk.
They're they're
I
very
can't explain
sprawling.
it. Yeah, like yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about a silly video I saw recently about Avatar: The Last Airbender and how it was compressed into a short movie, so that there wasn't any time for depth of characters or plot.
I think the issue was that Shyamalan clearly did not understand his source material at all. In interviews, he even said something along the lines of, "Oh, well, I don't even really understand why people are so into this, you know, but my kids are really into it, and that's why I wanted to do it." And it's like, well, no, if you don't appreciate the source material, you're not going to be the best person to adapt that source material. That's just the facts. You know, if you don't understand it, it's like Star Trek Nemesis. If, you know, the director of Star Trek Nemesis has never seen Star Trek before, Star Trek Nemesis isn't going to be good. You know, it's going to be really awkward, and that's just what
I keep
happens.
seeing that coming up in discussion of the movie Starship Troopers, where the guy making the movie hated the book and ripped it to shreds and made a movie that did not honor the source material.
Yeah, well, he tried to make a parody of it, which I will say, I think they both stand really well on their own. We actually were talking about Starship Troopers last night and how it's. I think what really throws people off right at the beginning is when they say, "Oh yes, those who do not, you know, serve the state are not allowed to vote." And like people sit there like, "Whoa, wait, is this like fascism?" And then they explain, you know, but they explain at some point, well, no, what we mean is if you're not willing to make some sacrifice for the greater good, why should the greater good make a sacrifice for you? Look, you can be a quadriplegic in, you know, a quadriplegic, you can be deaf, you can be all the every disorder you can imagine. If you are willing to go sit in a room for 8 hours a day for a whole year, you know, and just do nothing, just to pretend that you have a job for the state, then you can vote. But we're tired of all the rich people just having all this say in politics. Was kind of what he was saying was too many people, because he had fought in World War II. You know, he'd fought in World War II. He'd seen right before World War II the attempted fascist takeover of America, where they tried to kill Roosevelt, and he had seen all that, and he's like, wait a minute, why is it that we needed to fight this war? We definitely needed to fight this war. Why is it that me and my friends all had to make sacrifices for this war, but there were people who didn't, and yet they still have the full benefit of society? And that's what he's really saying there. But that's me rambling about Starship Troopers. It's really interesting what he's actually saying if you read through the book and you really think about it. I don't necessarily agree with him. I want to clarify on every point, but it did sort of resonate with me, the thought of, well, yeah, that might be an issue when you have people influencing your system who aren't necessarily, you know, rich people are not, you know, they're not really affected if there's a problem that's affecting only poor people, you know. And so I don't
The
know.
phrase you're looking for is skin in the game.
Yeah, no
If you
skin
don't
in the
have
game.
skin in the game,
Oh,
you
in
don't-
the words of System of a Down, why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor? You know, that's what he's trying to say is what if only the people who slaved away to make this whole thing work were the people allowed to say how it ends up working?
And if you look at the Starship Troopers, who is in the first drop capsules going down onto the planet? The answer is the commanders.
Right.
There's nobody remains on the ship. They're all fully committed to this war.
Right.
The commanders going down first. I wrote a pony tribute to
Wait,
the
Pony Starship Troopers?
yeah.
That sounds super neat.
Okay.
But we need to
That
wrap
sounds
this
like-
up. We have 5 minutes left. So does anyone have any last thoughts? Muffin, give me your last thoughts. Let's close on some thoughts from Muffin.
All right. Okay. So, Well, I think pretty much.
Hank?
I think a lot of you have managed to cover a lot of pretty much what I guess I've experienced as well as a writer. But I think I think one thing I would practice as a writer is practice writing the opposition or the villain, because I think that helps ground the story and makes it interesting. I think villains are interesting because they can really dictate how the hero tries to fix the problem, or when they struggle in the story. So like so you have that point of like recognition and disruption to the story and to the world that is in them. I think if you have an interesting villain and a good and a well-written villain, you'll have a well-written story, because that will keep the story interesting, because people will want to keep guessing about the villain and also want to see, you know, will the hero prevail? Is there going to be a good ending, or is there going to be a bad ending?
Snow, last thoughts. Krishni, I mean.
When designing a story, try to think about the intended audience and what their expectations are going to be and what you want to do with the story. Are you trying to just write something amusing and nothing, or do you have more of a point to it? If you have a point, beware, because you should not be shoehorning some kind of message or screed into the story. Just try to build the story around your ideas instead, and have it come out in the theme somehow. If you want to talk about, I don't know, the environment, you can have that be the theme of the story without you banging people over the head with your intended message on the subject. You can write something that is very happy or horrific or anywhere in between, and think about what intended tone you have, but don't necessarily make the entire story like that. You can have humor in a frightening story and vice versa.
So, George, any last thoughts?
God, I can fill an hour. You
Well, you got 1 minute.
I got a minute. You know Ratatouille, where they got anybody can cook? Well, anybody can write, because if I can write, anybody can write. Villains are very good. You just have to remember that villains have motivations too, and normally they have motivations where they're trying to do something right. And it's the best story I've seen on that.
At least they have a justification they've got somewhere. It may not be a good one, but they're justifying it to themselves somehow.
Best one I've seen is Soon I Will Become Invincible. If you ever want to get into a villain's mindset and figure out what makes them tick, that is a great one. I'm done.
Any other thoughts? Doesn't have to be on villains. Just anything else you want to say before we cut you off?
Well, I could go forever, but you have to eventually close the panel.
Yeah, I do. Well, that has been Ask a Writer. Thank you to Mystery Muffin, George, and Chris Schnee. And this is LooneyCon. So remember, everyone that you're hearing at these various panels has, fin fictions, Patreons and subscribe stars, Twitters and YouTubes, and some of us even have things published on Smashwords or Amazon. So go check us out, look us up. We are all existing. And we're doing this for exposure. So, as I said last night, if you do something for exposure, you might as well expose yourself. So this is us, look us up. That said, thanks to everyone. That's the end of this panel. Right now, they are starting Science the Flank, which is it's Fiara. She's one of the other people on the panel. That's the world building panel tonight. And it's going to be a science-y one about My Little Pony. Then after that, they've got, right now they're also doing a game of Among Us over in the game room. After that, our musical guest tonight is going to be doing one called The Road to Creation, and then after that, they're going to be doing the Team Fortress 2 game in the game room. And later tonight, we have World Building 101. After that, there's going to be a Jackbox game with Lee Tokar, who's the celebrity guest, who voiced Snips in My Little Pony, because you guys were talking about that earlier, and I kept wanting to say that. But, no, so if you guys want to see the next writing panel, it is in, I believe that's 3 hours from now, I want to say. Aster, you're here. The next writing panel, that's 3 hours from now, right? It's all in Mountain Time. I don't want to be saying it for sure. Aster? Hello?
Oh, wait. I thought I unmuted myself.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, it looks about 3 hours from now.
All right, so World Building 101 is in 3 hours from now. But in the meantime, you know, like I said, VR is about to start on Science the Flank over on Twitch, and after that, there will be The Road to Creation by Pwn3, iPwn3, that's the name of that musical guest. So, everyone, I hope you're enjoying the con, and stay tuned for all that.
Oh,
Thank you.
you were mentioning the time difference. I was going to say is I think you still have an extra hour.
Wait, we do?
Yes.
No.
I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure you do. Since it says based off of Mountain Time that it starts at 1, it's 12 Mountain Time at the moment.
What? It starts at 10 Mountain Time and goes to...
10 to 12,
Okay.
2 hours.
Okay, hang on. So is Fiara starting her panel right now?
I don't believe so. There's no
Guys, I
sign of
guess
it.
I'm sorry, everyone. I guess we do have another hour. We can keep hanging out. I was sitting here like wrapping it up. That's the problem with putting everything on Mountain Time, is that nobody is on Mountain Time except for Looney.
Yeah, it's basically 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock Mountain Time, which Central Time is 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I was kind of wondering about that.
Yeah, the time differences can be a hurdle.
Well, I'm glad you told us that before we stopped the panel entirely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I need to get going. I will see you at 5.
Oh, okay. See you then.
Thank you, everyone.
See you, Snow.
Yeah, it's like 7 PM for me over here, so...
One of the advantages and disadvantages of having a worldwide fandom.
Yes. It's like, the thing is, yeah, because it's like I'm ahead, and then sort of the events that are happening like over in the States, like the evening events and the afternoon events, it's like super late for me.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna put up a message that we're still going. So what do we want to do? Do we want to do I guess we're gonna just keep chattering.
Yeah, sure, I like that.
Yep, still have an audience.
A captive audience, maybe.
No, they
Y'all don't have anywhere else to go. This is the only thing that's happening right now. We are the only panel that is going right now.
We are the happening place.
We are the happening place of this convention. Where else are you going to go? We could just start talking about you know, like, hey, read our story, read our stories, read our stories, read our stories. We could just keep doing that for like a whole like hour, and you'd have nowhere else to go. That's how screwed
we
you
could
guys
just,
are right now.
Yeah.
We could just.
Well,
could
as it turns
literally
out,
read our
Among
own
Us
stories.
might be starting soon-ish.
Yeah, Among Us, I think, is starting now. Or it's supposed to be starting now. He might be late.
It's possible. It's probably likely.
Swipe. I'm gonna stick myself on this slide. Haha. Now I'm in the panel.
Fabulous.
No, the reason I picked when I was doing the panel scheduling, the reason I said, oh, we should make it Muffin, Regidar, and Snow is because the three of them, I don't think any of you have any of you ever even been on an Ask a Writer panel before? Oops.
No. Which is why I'm quite shy.
Right. I think, Muffin, this is your first panel I've ever been on with you. Is this your first panel in general?
No, I did one last year. I can't. Oh, it was Ponyfest, and I did an LGBT panel on writing LGBT characters. And
I vaguely remember
again,
that
I was,
one.
yeah, I was still very shy. I think it's just it's just talking, and trying to sort of flow the sentences really, and try and not stumble, which I find very difficult. But it's.
If you stumble, we will pick you up.
You're doing fine.
No, thank you.
How about these other two people that are sitting in this chat with us? I see there's like 3 other people that are muted that haven't been saying anything. You guys want to talk? You can talk too. I mean, we're still on stream, but so you can't swear, but you know.
Yeah, I did accidentally slip. I don't know. It
I don't think anyone noticed.
Don't know how extreme it was, but
I don't think anyone
wouldn't have
noticed.
meant
As
it.
long as you're not sitting there like doing the thing that I normally do, where you just sit there dropping f-bombs. Yeah, you know, I don't think you haven't been in many like Discord calls with me. I'll just sit there like every other word is an f-bomb. So as long as you're not doing that, you're probably fine.
Oh, I'm gonna go back to muting myself.
We haven't done that in a while. I remember when there was the magic continues.
Oh yeah, the magic continues. We
And
really
we had
got to
voice
finish
call.
that. Like it's all sitting there like 90% done. You know, it's like these great episodes. I forget, you wrote one of them, right?
I helped write alongside one writer, but I haven't heard much communication with them. In fact, I've kind of forgotten who they are now, which is kind of bad.
Do you remember what the plot of that one was?
But
I wrote the one with the Castle Dia.
Oh.
Or no, wait, I didn't write that one. We all wrote that one. Everyone was writing that one, but I was the one who came up with the Castle Dia.
Yeah, I remember you doing that one.
Let's see, what was the one that I wrote that was like, I think I only wrote one that wasn't like a group project. Oh, it's the Lyra and Bonbon Get Married one. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I even had a song for that one. These people have no idea what we're talking about, but that'll be awesome when we finally get around to finishing The Magic Continues and putting that out. Just, you know, COVID just completely wrecking balled the entire team, but when that comes out, y'all are gonna like it.
Yeah, I'll be excited.
I'm trying to even remember how that song goes. I was with, I think I was running stuff off of Forever Free. Brony said he was going to do the music for it at some point, but just Bon Bon saying that everything needs to be perfect. You know, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And, you know, we've got to plan our special day. It's got to be perfect. There's another example of a story that's like one of those stories that probably needs to be told and stuff that is never told. You know, because it's one that even adults can hear. This thing where the plot of that one, I'm just going to say it even though it hasn't. So spoiler alert for Magic Continues if anyone's really doesn't want to know what's going to happen until we get it out. The plot of that one is that Lyra and Bon Bon are planning their wedding, right? Because it's set between the season finale and the series finale, and they're planning their wedding, and Lyra, you know, has all these, they've got all these ideas that they're putting down, and Bon Bon just starts like, well, no, this is really special. It has to be perfect, and I work for the government. I have this crazy large bank account that I can make this really special. And she keeps adding things, and Bon Bon starts turning into like a bridezilla by proxy by trying to add a bunch of crazy stuff to make, you know, like there is a scene where she's like, oh, Lyra, you really like pants. We should make everyone wear pants. We should get a designer to design everyone pants. And Lyra was like, well, wait, I was just thinking they could just come however they want, you know, like a casual thing. You know, no, it has to be perfect. Don't worry, we'll get you all the pants you want. But Lyra, I don't want to force our guests to wear pants. You know, this sort of thing back and forth, and
that's really
I
good.
always have to put a lampshade on the fact that they don't wear pants. You know, that I always have to do that. But anyway, though, like it just gets to this point where like Bon Bon is singing this song and it's getting more and more extravagant as the song goes with all the crazy stuff that she wants to do for their wedding, you know. It's expanded from just a little thing in the garden to, you know, like we're going to rent out fucking Canterlot there's me going with it. But no, we're gonna rent out Canterlot Castle or whatever, and we're gonna have airships and stuff, and Lyra's just sitting there like, no, we live in Ponyville. We're in Ponyville. All our friends are in Ponyville. My friends they'll just come down. They'll take the train. Like what are we doing? Stop.
Sounds brilliant. What was it? It was I can't remember what it was, but
well, let me finish my thought.
It was the episode.
Let me finish my thought.
Yeah,
the reason why I thought that was important to write was because it's like, you know, I felt like when we were doing the Magic Continues, I was saying, you know, oh, we need to make sure that we keep that model of every episode has a moral or something. Every episode has some actionable advice to it. And like I was sitting there saying, you know, the problem with wedding episodes is let's just do a wedding episode where they make their wedding too crazy and it gets out of hand. Because that is a thing in real life, is that people forget that you can be happy with just the small thing, with just a simple wedding that, you know, isn't, everything does not have to be over the top. And that's the moral of that story. And like I said, I wrote it because I feel like everything needs to have a point, and that's the point of that story. What were you going to talk about, Muffin?
I was talking about the episode where like Applejack and their family are invited to the Pie family, and they have like this heartwarming sort of family tradition, and sort of Applejack is sort of a bit disappointed that it's all rock based and quite grey and miserable, and then she tries to like, and just tries to make it all big and like, gosh, it goes pear-shaped.
You read, I think it's Skywriters in the Bleak Midwinter, where Princess Cadence is talking to one of the servants about, you know, she's been putting up things for hearthwarming, and all the servants are kind of looking at her like she's got two heads, and she's kind of wondering, you know, what's going on here. It says, we don't celebrate the winter here. The winter is cold and filled with hungry teeth, and wishes us all dead, and she's like, oh, okay, a little bit difference in culture here.
Right. And
Culture
she,
clashes are really fun to write, but you have to be kind of in on both sides of the culture to figure out how you're going to mash them together. But it makes good when you're writing a story. It makes good tension. It could be something just as simple as putting a star up on top of the tree. You could have an entire story built off of, Lyra and Bon Bon have a heartwarming tree, and this is their first tree they've had in Ponyville, and one of them wants to put a star up, and the other one says, no, we don't put stars on the top of the tree. That's not the way we work. And you could build an entire story out of that. How do you compromise? You can't put up half a star.
yeah.
But yet
Oh,
it's
can
very
you?
important for this one character. It's very important for this other character, and they're clashing on it.
There we go. We're doing pretty things with our stream. Our stream imagery. Now everyone on the stream can see that Chris Snow is not here.
No, because I wrote a wedding. I don't want to write another one. God, it was a disaster enough as is in the Tudor series. It says something nice about your wedding when you have an attempted murder in the middle of it. There's something about weddings where you have to have at least one. It's not a good wedding unless somebody either dies or comes close to dying. But
Right.
it's a beautiful place to write all kinds of stress and pressure and conflict.
Right. Which leads to that great scene where, like Lyra just, that great scene in that episode where Lyra just, finally at the end of the song screams, "That's it, the wedding's off," because she's so sick of Bon Bon doing all this, like everything, getting. Bon Bon pulls a Lyra in this episode. It's great.
Yeah, the wedding's off is a wonderful phrase to use. I have a starting. It's no secret that I'm an ST fan. Which, if you read my stuff for more than one or two stories, you suddenly find out. But I've got a series called Substitute Librarian that follows along behind you. What would happen if this character was the substitute for whenever Twilight's out of town doing bearer stuff, he's in town watching in the library, and vice versa. And I have a conflict with him and the chief of police, and he's at the door of the library, and he yells at her and shouts, "The wedding is off," and slams the door. And like leaving the poor chief of police on the other side going, what? It's fun to go over the top on that.
Yeah. I see we've got a new person in the chat here. Just so they know, the floor is open right now. We're still on stream, so we're streaming this. But if you wanted to unmute and chat, we're just sort of talking right now. Just hanging around.
I'm familiar with Abstract. Hello, Abstract. How are you doing?
Hello, what's up? I just saw that this con was on, and I forgot that it was this weekend. And I was like, oh snap! And I hopped in, so I've landed.
I think a lot of people forgot this con was this weekend.
It's all good. I mean, like
I'll let Aster talk about
I'm like,
that.
oh heck yeah, perfect thing for my weekend.
Be careful, we'll drag you in as a writer. I didn't realize the con was on yesterday. That's how I wound up over in the humor voice chat. All of a sudden it was like, George, yay, somebody unmute George, get George in here. And I'm like, what? Oh, okay.
I'm just looking through Vendor Hall right now. Some good stuff.
There is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
gotta admit, before I got into the fandom, I was an incredible introvert. I didn't go to any conventions. First convention I went to, let me give you a quick story here on writing. Writing is not the biggest section of the fandom. I think art and music is the big two. But first convention I went to was KC Brony Fest, or Kansas City, the Kansas City Brony convention they had in 2016. I think it was 2016, 2015, somewhere in there. It's the only one they had.
I'll bet it's 2015. Like 2015, there was just this huge boom of
Yeah.
like cons. Like there was a con in every state. Like, and that's kind of what the problem was. Is there was so many that it was like too split up.
Oh, it was great though because we had most of the voice actors in on it. But there was a tornado right before the convention, and most of the voice actors coming in were on planes that got diverted to Denver. So we had half of the voice actors on a video link up on the wall, and the other half sitting at the tables for the talking to the Meet the Voice Actors panel. It was great.
You got to improvise.
Yeah.
I could relate with what you said in the beginning, though. Like you said, you're like a huge introvert before the fandom. I still kind of am to an extent, but I'm just like I've mastered my awkwardness. And I think like going to conventions and stuff, and just you know what it is? It's the overall like open vibe of a convention. You know, like everything's like, you know, no one's judgmental. Everyone's out there doing their like thing, whatever it is, showing off their cosplay, and it's like it's such an open arms feeling, I guess. And like once you get immersed into that, it's like you don't gotta worry about, you know, am I, you know, being judged or this or that, or, you know, what other people are thinking. You just have fun in its purest form. And that's kind of like my first real exposure to that, because I used to be super anxious about being judged, because like in my high school, I went to a really cliquey, really judgmental school where you were always walking on like fucking, or my bad, I don't think we're allowed to swear. We were always walking on glass. Censors myself. But yeah, like I was always in that environment, and I was like coming from that, and then I went to Winnie City 17, I think, and just that vibe when I walked in, I was like, I could do nothing but smile, and like that's kind of like, I don't know, I just found it relatable when you said that.
Yeah, the Kansas City convention was in the same building as they have their rock show, and it's about half of the rock show size. And I was walking and I was going, where are all these people coming from? I was like, they're all My Little Pony fans. I didn't know there were this many of them here.
Right.
But yeah, all happy, all welcoming, and I ran into 3 people who actually knew who I was. It's kind of,
yeah, I love when that happens. It's always great to do a panel, and then afterwards people are like, oh, I really like this from you, or I really like when you did this. You know, it's like, oh wow, the people that those hundreds of people that I see on FimFiction or on whatever website I be posting things on, they exist in real life. Wow. Wow.
Sometimes they're weirder too. Yeah. I had my first BronyCon I went to, 2017, 16, somewhere in there. I've been to 2, I believe. But I walked in, I went over to the writers section, the quilts and sofas, and I believe it was Biker Dash, I'm not positive, who saw me and went and flung himself down on the floor and says, I'm not worthy. I'm like, what? Somebody knows who I am? And I walked in, I realized everybody in the room knew who I was. I was like, this is strange.
Nani?
Like, you know, I am horse famous to a very small group.
Yeah. I mean, I had a little bit of that beforehand with, because I'd been in a punk band before I wrote My Little Pony fan fiction, but, you know, so I'd kind of seen that before, but it is like a different experience when it's for, like, I wrote this story with My Little Pony crap going on. Yeah.
Kind of a bigger jump there than Snow the lawyer turning into a My Little Pony writer.
A bigger jump?
Yeah, bigger jump. Yeah. Well,
What?
Twilight could
Being in
make
a
a very
punk
good
band?
lawyer. Yeah.
I don't know. Punk bands are really known for sincere writing and just, it's entertainment to entertainment, I I also had a background. I worked at a law firm for a while myself, but I'm I'm a bigger fan of the entertainment than the structured environment of the whatever. What was I
Yeah,
gonna?
I used to joke that the writer fandom is the Asperger's convention.
I don't know about that. I think there's lots of people in lots of groups, but what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Lee Tokar. You guys mentioned at some point.
I think I
Oh
bumped
no,
into
I
a
was gonna ask,
Lincoln.
if anyone saw like the opening ceremonies, and at the end, Looney did a really good interview. It's worth watching with Lee Tokar at the end of the opening ceremonies, and to fill the rest of their time slot. And one of the things Lee Tokar pointed out is like LooneyCon is a really unique convention in that there aren't really Western animation conventions like LooneyCon. So it's really great to be able to come to a convention where it's just hey, we get to talk about Western animation and not be worried about which Western animation. We could just talk about anything really, but that it's focused on Western animation and nothing in particular within that. That's vaguely unique. So I don't remember what I was going to say about that, but it's interesting.
Has LooneyCon always been a online convention?
Yes, it is a 100% online convention. It's Looney himself is the guy who's the mascot and runs the convention is a somewhat well known, I guess, cartoon reviewer. But that's who
I know
Looney
that
Little
Pony
is.
Fest was online.
What?
I was saying that Pony Fest was always an online
Oh
convention.
yeah, we also did this pony
think it
convention called Pony Fest that was also online. LooneyCon and Pony Fest are two of, I think, as far as I know, they are the two first online only conventions to come out of COVID.
Yeah, because they needed to keep supporting the vendors and stuff. So that's how Ponyfest started, if I remember.
I will be right back. I'm going to grab an egg. Go ahead and keep talking. Just don't swear because you're on stream. You
Yeah,
guys
just don't
stopped talking, didn't you?
don't do the Zoom call thing where you flush on with the microphone live.
Yeah. No, I'm just grabbing an egg from the kitchen.
I muted a little bit earlier to go get a can of pop because I was like, God, I'm dying. Yeah, I'm a big fan
I guess
of. Go ahead, move.
No, you go first, please.
We're very polite people here in Ponydom. Yeah, I'm a big fan of pulling beginning authors in and getting them to write something, because I started out like that, because I started my first couple of writing things just are terrible. I've been back and I've re-edited them about 2 or 3 times to bring them up to tolerable. And I tend to help new authors with their editing, but occasionally I hit somebody that I'm like going, I can't do this. You don't know what a period is, and you have no idea what to put in quotation marks.
Oh yeah,
All I'm
I've
doing
seen
is
that.
grammar. Go ahead, Muffin.
I was just saying, like, I enjoyed the fact that I think one positive from this pandemic is actually being able to sort of attend, in inverted commas, these conventions, because I legit would not be able to in person. Because for obvious reasons, I'm in another country, so I wouldn't be able to attend a lot of well-known conventions in the States.
What
Yeah,
convention are you? What country are you from, left?
Well, I'm originally from Germany, but I was raised in the UK, hence my accent.
That's where Muffin is from.
Yeah.
That is a fun thing, that Muffin would never be able to do a panel with me if it weren't for the fact that it's an online convention.
Yes, so thank you, Corona, for that. That's one positive.
Just to, like, in the Brony fandom, I want to touch on this. Just in the Brony fandom, like, I know because of, you know, like, all of the online cons and stuff, a lot of people that have never been in the fandom join the fandom because of those conventions during, like, you know, the lockdown and stuff, and, like, even, like, now and stuff. Like, a lot of people that I've met never really, like, were in the fandom until they went to one of these online cons, and then that kind of, like, brought some new people in.
Huh. The pony convention, or the pony fandom grew, you're saying, by COVID.
Yeah, I don't know how much, but it definitely did, because I remember, I forget, it was my first Pony Fest. It was 2.0, and like, a lot of people I talked to were new. Like, they were really new. They've never seen the show. They were just poking in, and they loved it. And they, you know, like, a lot of them I'm still friends with now, and, like, that's what started them off in the fandom, was conventions, like, online conventions, like, you know. So, like, I don't know how much the Brony fandom grew because of COVID, but I feel like it did a little bit, just because of the online cons.
And we have had people in the regular conventions come in from forever away. Raugos, Raugos, came in from I think Malaysia with Durian to share, which was an experience and a half. I think we have video a couple of the episodes.
Durian is a
And
weird fruit.
Durian is a wonderful fruit. And we had Aragon show up at the last BronyCon, and that was a hoot and a half. And I think the last BronyCon we actually had ST show up, although incognito.
ST?
Yeah.
Oh, Super Trampoline.
No, ST. Writer of 50%.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know him. I know them.
500 Little Murders.
I know that person.
UM series, yeah. I'm a fan. Go read her stuff.
Yeah, I've talked to her for a little bit before.
You have? Online, I presume?
She's a fan of my work.
I'm jealous.
I don't know, write horror stories, I guess.
Well, but yeah, I've bumped into the most amazing people in this fandom.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're talking about online, Life, the Universe, and Everything had a writing convention here about a month or two ago, and it was online, and that was a real blast because I kind of glued myself to the computer for the whole weekend. They have a bunch of regular, normal writers on it, and they were talking about all kinds of things. I'm just an amateur. At best, I can possibly crank out a 4-star story. These 5-star writers constantly baffle me. It's like, how do you do that?
Well, here you were saying that, it's good to fly by the seat of your pants, and all of us, would tell you, well, maybe you should put some structure in. Maybe that's what you need.
Way.
Maybe that's something you should try practicing.
oh God, what's his name? Brandon Sanderson has an entire video collection from his was it 819 class over in Salt Lake City. It's all online. It's all on YouTube. I've been through it twice now. But all the pantsers actually are plotters. All the plotters actually are pantsers. It's just how much you do. Technically, when I'm writing when I'm writing a story, I'm writing an incredibly detailed plot. It's just that I'm writing it out as I go, and once it's all written, I go back and spend about a month putting everything back where it belongs. At least I do now. That's one of the things that helped in my productivity, because I used to write, and when I got done with the chapter, publish it. That's a bad idea, especially when you're dealing with multi-chapter things. It's a lot better to finish something out to the end, and then publish it out like one chapter at a day on fiction.
Or at
all
least
at once if you
outline it
want.
out and have it mostly done before you start trying to publish.
No.
Because
It needs to be done, done before you publish, because you will, if you outline it out and you have like the first couple of chapters done and you publish them. I did this on Monster in the Twilight. Monster in the Twilight was my first story that caught fire, lit up, exploded, went viral, went nuts. But I kind of had an idea on how I was going to work my way all the way through it, and I had like 1 or 2 chapters written when I published the first chapter, and it lit up like a firecracker. And I had a second chapter, and I published it, but I didn't have anything else. And all of a sudden, there are all these people that want to read this thing, and I'm like going, I can crank out maybe a chapter a week, maybe a chapter every 2 weeks, because I'm really not that terribly productive.
Right.
And it was kind of a stressful thing for me. And I would have done much better on it. I think it would have browned up much better if I'd waited till the very end before I started punching publish on them.
Yeah.
But
Well, you never know when your first story is going to blow up. I did not expect Displaced into Nothing to blow up, but it was the story that had such a positive response that I just sat there like, maybe I should start trying to write seriously more often. Maybe I could be a good writer. And now I'm trying to publish some books, so it's like...
Well, yeah, speaking of publishing books, were you around for the last LooneyCon?
No.
The last LooneyCon, Aquaman, I believe it was, said, we've got all these stories, and everybody, likes reading books. What if we were to make a booth, and if you've got a story that would make a good book, you can print it out as a book, and we can bring it into the con, and if 12 people want it, you print out 12 copies and you bring it in, and 12 people then buy it off the stand and pay. Since you can't make money off fan fiction without having Hasbro come after you, we're buying and selling at cost roughly. And since that would be a really great idea, we can get 1 or 2 people to do
seeing,
this. Go ahead.
No. Please finish. No, please finish.
Well, we had he's like, we can get 1 or 2 or 3 people to do this. I'll pay for the booth. And it's like, okay, that's great. And a couple of people signed up, and I'm like going, well, I've always wanted to print a book, and Lulu is, you can print anything through Lulu. If you could print 50 pages of your most horrid poetry, whatever, and it printed out as a book through Lulu. It's incredibly easy. And I, put together my first draft of my first book, and put it in and printed it and had it mailed to me. And I'm looking at it and going, I have a book. I'm published. I have typos on the cover. I have typos on page 3, and I had to go all the way through it.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff. And by then there was like 10, 12, 20 people, and it just blew up. And by the time I actually got to LooneyCon, I'm sitting there lugging, I have like 4 boxes of books in the back, because enough people had said before the convention, yes, I would like to buy a copy of your book. I printed off, that many plus some. And I called them up and I said, I've got some books in the back of my car. How many should I bring over? Because I was like, has anybody showed up yet? And the answer was, bring them. And I get over there, and there's a line, and there's these stacks of books, and people have armloads full of them, and they're going through the checkout. And I'm going, what the hell happened? He says, well, this is what you weren't here earlier. They had to line them up over against the wall over there because we were taking up too much corridor space, and then bring them over 10 at a time. And all of these books that I brought, I was expecting to have to bring half of them home and give them out as, Christmas presents. Thanks, Uncle Ian. You got me a book about romantic horses. How great of you. They all
I
sold.
love that.
They sold that place down almost to the floor. The only thing left over was 4 copies of Traveling Tutor, which I really wasn't. I was like, boy, that's a kind of a. It's not the heart. But all these people showing up at convention to buy physical copies of stories that they'd read online at cost was just this, wow. Where have I gone from when I started on this, when I was going, I can write something better than that, to the point where I'm lugging 5 books to this event and having them all sold out, except for Tutor. It was really a kick in the tail. Like, I'm a published author now. Admittedly, none of them are profit based, but I'm a published author. Weird feeling. All right, I'm done gushing. Somebody else take over.
Oh, okay. What were you gonna say, Muffin?
I was just saying that I still still had a lot to finish, a lot of my fanfics to finish, and I'm just writing more now. In fact, more of one of my fics, but it's I don't know. I think I just kind of sort of burnt out or lost interest. Well, not yeah. Well, I don't know. I just sort of lost the motivation. During the first lockdown, but then since the beginning of this year, I've kind of gone back into writing, and and now I'm determined to try and actually finish these fics, because I don't want to just leave them unfinished or cancelled. I do have put time and effort into these.
Man, I was really hoping. I was really hoping I would be able
don't want
to
to leave them unfinished.
I was really hoping I'd be able to use the lockdown as time to write, but it ended up being no time somehow. Just I can't write anything because of the lockdown. And then then of course I thought I was gonna get some stuff out, and then I got COVID, and then it was what has it been almost? It's been more than 6 months since I got COVID now, and it's just now getting back to the point where I can actually write things.
COVID sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really it is really a terrible disease. It's the modern polio pandemic.
I got COVID for Christmas. My explanation for it was like being hit by a truck, which then backs up to see what it hit, and then drives off to go see who else it can go hit. Because I was bedridden for a full complete week out of the middle of that, and it was a case of the wife would open the door and chuck in a bottle of Gatorade and a banana, and close the door because they're living in the rest of the house. I never gave it to them, thank God. But
Yeah.
it was. I can understand why it was killing off old people. I'm not that old. I'm not that old. I'm in denial.
You got out lucky. It sounds like only a week. I was
no. That's the week in the middle while I was bedridden, because the first couple of days were while I'm running on the nose. God, this sucks. And then from then on, it was like, okay, I'm in the bed, get up every couple hours. I set my alarm to go take my stupid pills. And in the middle of the whole thing is when I found out that you can interleaf Motrin and Tylenol. You can take 4 Motrin. I was taking 1. It's like, God, no. But Motrin, Tylenol. And then it went from, oh God, I'm going to die to, this sucks. Thank God. But yeah, and then the week after that, I wasn't bedridden. I was I have all the energy of a iPhone with that red battery sign on it. I could start calls, but I couldn't complete them. Once I got up, I was going, I feel good. I feel great. I changed 2 light bulbs in the house because I was going to go out and get tacos. And then I went back to bed and slept for 3 hours.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. No, because I think what it is they one of the things with COVID is that it's kind of like a PTSD form that you get from being in bed for so long. It's what was it, hospital depression or something? They actually found that people get this disorder from it. But the thing is, like, I remember that it was torture to be lying in that bed for, days and days and days that I just couldn't leave the bed, and it was, awful. And then when I finally did get enough energy, I had to stop myself from just running off and doing a bunch of things because, the next thing you know, you're going to be exhausted within a few minutes of trying to do anything. So
I told the wife it was a good thing that I was changing those light bulbs. Otherwise, I would have called her up halfway in the town going, I'm sleeping beside the road. Can you come get me?
that's why you send the wife to tacos.
You have just enough energy to start something. Yeah. But yeah, it took about a month to get back to my normal energy level. Isn't that too terribly high either. And I got my shot afterwards because it was like they always either take it or they're going to lose it. So I was like, well, I might as well. So now I've had it and I've got the shot. I'm immune. I'm an immunity monster. But yeah, there was no writing going on while I was out like a light. I had Netflix. That was it.
You're making me want to go get tacos, but like I won't have time to get tacos before the next panel.
Well, tacos is my reward food. I've been good so far. Taco Bell is cheap. Yeah, I'm a Taco Bell fan.
I like tacos. I like Mexican food in general.
Oh God, we've almost used up the other hour.
I was about to say, speaking of time before I can go get more tacos.
We need to talk something about writing here. We quick, somebody say something about writing.
Anyone can say it. Anyone who wants to unmute themselves and talk, you can talk. Nate Cat, you can talk if you want. You just have to click that unmute button.
Come on, Nate, you can do it. What cheer you on?
I see Fiara getting ready for her stream in panel room 2.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there is a room for panel room 2.
Yeah, but I'm going to try and get Fiara in here, and we'll just hand it off to Fiara.
It's got nothing in it, but it's still a room.
I'm more of a musician, but I had crazy writer's block during that period too. I think it's just because like waking up and then not really doing anything, and then the day flies by, and then like the productivity was just not. I don't know. Actually, I did do one thing during that like time. I was like video editing, but other than that, yeah, no, like I completely relate because like I would write raps all the time. And then on quarantine, I just had crazy writer's block. But
well, there's a time thing that goes along with COVID. where you're really not sure what time of day it is. When I was taking my pills, I actually have a piece of paper up on the mirror that I would write down what time it was and what pills I took, so I wouldn't like wake up 2 hours later and go, what did I take last time and when wasn't? It just kind of blanks out on what it is you're doing. And yeah, that kills productivity and creativity.
Anyways, so we're about to run off. Anyway, we're about to run off here because we've got only 10 minutes left with the room. But does anyone have any final thoughts before we go? I know I already said this earlier when we had that false ending, but...
I used up all my thoughts. I can't think anymore.
Oh yeah, you said back then you could get another hour out of you, but now you've gotten another hour out of you.
I have 3 interesting stories. I've already told one of them. The other 2 don't relate to writing.
Okay, well let's not do them right now.
Yeah.
Muffin, you got any final Muffin thoughts? What is the mystery of Muffin? Are you going to explain this to us? Okay. Muffin has no thoughts, I guess.
I stepped away from the microphone briefly.
I think she did. I think she's gone. Goodbye, Muffin. All right, well, that concludes Ask a Writer for real this time. Remember, online conventions are done so that we can expose things and have the vendors there and all that and keep the community together and so we can all interact with fans. Yay! And if you like us, go ahead and check us out on FemFiction, Patreon, Subscribestar, Twitter, YouTube, Smashwords, Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Just look us up. Anyway, that's it for this panel. That is it for this panel. So, let me start reading the schedule off. Up next is Why Ponies Matter to Adults, Science the Flank, which is Fiara's panel about just analyzing My Little Pony. They're about to finish up Among Us, I think, over in the game room, if anyone wants to get in on a few last-minute games of that. And then after that, there's iPony and the Road to Creation. And finally, World Building 101 in 2 hours. And after that is the Jackbox game of Lee Tokar. And eventually, How to Be a Cinnamon Roll, which I have no idea what How to Be a Cinnamon Roll is, but it sounds great. And then after that, we're going to have Drumstick Pony and iPone 3 are going to be doing their sets. So everybody stay tuned. There's lots of Pony Fest. There's lots of, not Pony Fest. Everybody stay tuned. There's lots of LooneyCon coming up. So y'all have a nice night. And that concludes the stream. Everyone say bye.
Bye.
Bye. So long. Good night. Vanessa, good night. However that song goes. I don't know.
You don't want me to sing. I'm sorry.
Enjoy the rest of the con, everyone.
It's been great, guys. I'm gonna come off now. Thanks for it's been an honor doing this.
Oh, I just ended the
panel
stream.
with you all. Oh, never mind. But anyway.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Yeah.
No problem. And I'll see you on the next one, the characters.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow at tomorrow's character one. All right. Let me close this. How do I make it stop sharing my screen? There it is. Okay, Fiara. There it is. Okay, I'm pointing them to this room then. Oh, I should copy what it says on the schedule.
This is a kebab maker. So the
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kick?
this is a kebab maker.
You think this is funny?
In a cosmic sort of way, yes.
Well, Mr. Funny Man, is this how you get your sick kicks?
What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my goodness!